All right. So this week we have got a selector ticket. We got some trash stones. We got some charms. And we got some Molagora. And then you can unlimited buy these charms. I strongly encourage you to not waste your money on the equipment charms. The amount it costs to farm, you could put that same amount of stamina into farming unrecorded history or even adventure, and the amount of charms and powder you would get per stamina spent is more than the amount of charms you would get buying these things. If it's the same as the carrot event, that holds true. Now, the right side charms, they're a little harder to get, so maybe you feel some value in that you can't farm these up. So if you want to grab right side charms, go for it. But left side charms, I would just sack that stamina for something else. Of course, you want to get the Molagora. These, I mean, you know, spend your overage, sure, but I would not buy anything else from this week. And we go on to week 2. You can use some of your saved up stuff. Exact same story. The charms are not worth it. The stamina, it's better to go farm a regular adventure and you'll get charms and AP, or unrecorded history and you'll get charms and gold, or, you know, you get what I'm picking up, right? And let's see, we got an artifact selector next week, another artifact selector, and ooh, the fully decked out hero selector. That's juicy. Now, it's sad to see that it's all charms, but yeah. That's my advice. Do not buy these charms unless you just have nothing else to buy. It's week 4 and you're out, so you may as well just go ahead and grab a thing. I only recommend grabbing the right side charms. I would leave these on the table and use that stamina to farm something worthwhile that also gives you charms. But who can we get? Guys, there are so many choices. So many choices. Feels like it's time for a tier list. We're going to do this from the perspective of somebody who is relatively new at the game. Who should they pick up? I think that's the fairest way to do it, because if you've been playing this game for 5 years, you don't need me to tell you who to pick. You know how this works. So let's see. Let's filter this out. You cannot get ML units. You cannot get limited units, and you cannot get collaboration units. Alrighty, and that should show everybody who is a 5-star, who is a RGB hero, should show everybody that is available from the list. Alright, so what do we call these? Everybody wants some. This is our must-have tiers. These are units that you're probably going to want on your list. And this is going to be the solid units. This is just your basic A tier. If you don't have a unit, if you have everybody in the top and nobody here, this is what you're going to want. And this is kind of a niche, mid, needs a buff. We're going to keep this simple. We're going to keep it stupid simple, right? Remember, we're thinking about this from a new to early game player's perspective, right? People who've been playing this game, this is predominantly for people who've been playing this game 6 months or less, and usable for people who've been playing this game for, I would say, 15 months or less. Anybody beyond that probably doesn't need as much help, or is maybe starting to focus heavy on RTA and will want a different tier list. This isn't going to be your RTA heavy tier list, except to maybe get you into RTA. We'll talk about that as we go. Abigail is a solid unit. She's not one that's going to be great end game, but she will get you into RTA enough to get you a master's frame. She is solid in a lot of Guild Wars. That safety net on this here, she is surprisingly good. Surprisingly useful early game. Brieg, you get for free. Bomb model Kanna, you get for free. Alencia, yeah, you know what? I'm going to put her up here because she is a solid unit. She's one that you can build relatively easily. She's not going to alter your game, but she is a useful one to have. Aramintha needs a buff. She's really good, but only in very niche situations. Aria is a good hero, somebody that everybody would probably want on their account. She is really good at Wyvern, though so is just about everybody now. Her stocks have dropped. I thought about moving her down just because she is not quite the quintessential need that she used to be, but she is pretty easy to gear early on. Combined especially with specialty change Christie now, she doesn't need nearly as much gear as she used to, which makes her a very good unit to take into Guild Wars and into early arena. I think you'll be able to get some stuff done with her. So I'm going to leave her up here, though. Her position in the must-have tier is a little bit shaky. Arunka just needs a buff. Baal and Sezan is good for expeditions, and that is it. And he is replaceable by other units. If you're picking him up, you're picking him up for that niche, and you know that niche. Basar needs a buff. Actually, Basar doesn't need a buff because the last thing we need is another freaking Basar meta, but I'm leaving him down here. Beehoo, hard to gear, harder to play. Surprisingly good when you're able to play him. Bellona is a solid unit. She is a very strong DPS. She's one of the easiest ways to speed through Banshee, but again, just about everything kills Banshee anymore. But she's really good when PvE stuff comes out. Her built-in DGJ mechanic makes her really good in a lot of PvE and transitional PvE, so I still like Bellona as an early game pickup. She literally saved my game. I would have dropped E7 like a hot potato with how hard of a start that I had, and then I got Bellona, and suddenly the whole world opened up for me, and Abyss and other content became so much easier. So I'm never going to not have her under solid units. Birgita, however, as smoking hot as this redhead is, I'm just going to put them together so you can see how much Smilegate has issues with redheads, and needs to buff the redheads. Buff the redheads, Smilegate. Cecilia used to be up here until a unit called Brieg came out and stole all of her jobs, and now she just needs a buff. But Brieg is free to make it worse. So there are very, very few places where Cecilia is used anymore. Celine is a unit everybody wants on their account. You won't use her too terribly heavily in early game, but once you get to once you get to mid game and you're starting to care a little bit about Guild Wars and RTA, you're gonna be very, very glad you've got a green Celine in your hands and in your pocket. She is a powerhouse unit. Fire Cermia, you get her for free. Green Charles was good in Constellation, and then we found a way to full auto Constellation without him, and now poor Charlie, just Chucky doesn't have a job anymore. Fire Charlotte is in the meta where everybody was anti-crit. Charlotte was amazing. Her ability to always crit. Now, not so much. Chloe is not a good unit. Everybody tries to tell me, no, you can use Chloe here, you can use Chloe there. No, Chloe is just bad. Choux is a decent starter unit. She's basically green Alencia. She's an HP scaling bruiser who is good in really low level RTA. Once you get out of low level RTA, you're not going to use her, but early on, she's a good staple unit to help you get your master's frame. Command model Laika is a decent unit late game, right? In the very, very late and end game, people are doing some crazy stuff with Laika. Early game, you're not going to find many uses for this girl. She's too hard to build. Destina is a staple unit, one everybody should have on their account. She solves so many problems. She makes so much content that you were struggling with suddenly doable. Having the safety net of a full raise, having a heal on every single one of her skills is so nice. Very, very good. Ida. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. I think Ida needs a little bit of a buff. Elena is, once you get into RTA, she's going to be up here, but otherwise she's a solid unit. Early game, she's not going to do nearly as much for you. She's an investment hero, one that you pick up now, and 6 months from now, you're glad to have. Eligos is a really solid hero, except that he is hard to build. I'm not even going to come down here and say this guy needs a buff or anything that crazy. Just be aware, he takes some pretty good gear. You're going to struggle using him early on. So Elvira, you're going to see her on just about every single defense. Elvira is a good character to have because of her ability to stop fighting spirit. That makes a really nice tech pick in higher RTA, and she pairs incredibly well with Lady of the Scales. If you have Lady of the Scales on your account, then she's up here. Until that happens, she's not that useful for new players. And remember, guys, this is focusing on new players. She's a unit that if you pick her up, you're picking her up as an investment hero, but you're not going to get much of anything out of her in the early to mid game. Ervalen. Ervalen only has one use, and that's to help you full auto trial the constellations. Other than that, he is a useless character. Fenne, front of the list. If you don't have Fenne, this is where you do it. You get Fenne. She solves, she is the hammer to Brieg's anvil. You have the two of these two units, and you can handle 90% of the PvE in this game. So if you don't have a Fenne now, pick her up. Fenris is not a good unit. He's only really good in helping out with expeditions. Flan is terrible and needs a buff. Fumyr is a very solid hero, but not new player friendly. She is hard to gear, she's hard to play, and almost everything that centers around her is PvP related, is higher RTA related. I would not recommend Fumyr unless you're right on that cusp of trying to get yourself into RTA and you know what the heck you're doing. Guard Captain Krau lets you see through a lot of the BS that's in the meta right now. He is relatively easy to build, and he is a very strong unit. I think he easily makes it into this top tier list. And we'll put Haste right here beside Choux. Haste will let you do a lot of stuff in the Abyss, will help you out with a lot of PvE, and then once you get about to the 15-month mark, you're going to put Haste on the shelf and never use him again. Hwayoung is incredibly difficult to build, and once again, Smilegate, buff the redheads. Ilynav, it's just not a good unit. She was the introduction of injury to this game. Wukong's pretty solid. He is a strong unit. Cecilia is a free unit. Janua. I'm putting Janua at the front of the solid units. Janua is a powerful, powerful unit, but not so strong that I would call him a must-have. I think if you pick up Janua, you're going to be able to make a lot of Guild War fights easier and have a strong tool for RTA, but he is relatively hard to build, and his uses are somewhat niche. I'm going to leave him at the front. Kane is the most tragically awful unit. If I had a tier below this one, I'd put Kane in it. Khawarik is solid, but pretty hard to build. And then there's Ice Khawarik. Where is she? Here you go. Ice Khawarik. Practically the same damn unit. You get into, well, Akise actually is significantly better than Khawarik. You get into end game RTA. Remember when I said like Fumyr is really good, but you better have really good gear and know how to play her. You can say the same thing about Kise. Say the same thing about Command Model Laika. These are all units that can be used, but not early game, not help I'm new tier. So I'm putting them down here, even though you look at other tier lists and units like these are going to be rated way higher. Those are investment heroes. And if you're wanting to buy for the future, go for it. But remember, what's meta now may not be meta 7 or 8 months from now when you're getting ready to start diving into RTA. So I'm trying to keep this reasonable for newer players. Kayron. You know what? I'm going to put Kayron here in the solid units because when you get to the point you're getting ready to dip your toe into RTA, one of the least pleasant things in the world is getting cleaved, and having anti-cleave options like Kayron is huge. Being able to slap a thing down and stop somebody from just running you over feels really good. Nobody likes getting into RTA just having their asses handed to him by Cleave. So I'm going to stick him here. People are saying he's also a good Guild War character. Ken used to be an instrumental part of a Wyvern team, but now Wyvern's stupid easy, so he just needs a buff. Krau, I think, is one of the most important RGB knights in the game, and you should pick one up if you don't have them. Both Kraus are very, very, very good. Lidica, man, she was up here, her 15 minutes. Never have I seen a unit make such a incredibly super fast rise and then a freaking such a catastrophic fast crash. Now almost nobody uses her, and she needs a buff. You know, Lilius does have a dual attack on her S1, so you will be able to find some PvE uses with her when you pair her with a nuking unit like Lilius, Commander, Lorena together can two-woman a lot of things, but it's just very niche, few and far between, and there's so many units now that dual attack. I don't think it's that big of a deal anymore. Having that S3 cleanse and be able to nuke with her S3, you maybe find some uses on Abyss floors, but you're going to find it's going to be hard to slot her in. Lilibet, I think, is a solid unit. Lilibet is basically girl strays. Anybody seen people just do insane stuff with strays? Lilibet can basically do the same thing. She is the easiest Banshee unit for clearing Banshee. She is really good at nuking a lot of hunts as well as a lot of other content, and you can work her into actual RTA and use her in that sense too. Having Extinction in her kit's very strong. Lua is hard to build and harder to play. Ludwig is hard to build and harder to play. Lulika is a very good unit. I like to describe Lulika as the girl that everybody says is hot, but then nobody asks her to the dance. Lulika can do everything good. Not great, good. If You need a shield in this fight. Lulika's got you covered. You need an attack buffer. Lulika's got you here. You need a DPS. Lulika's got you. But you also need a defense breaker. Hey, Lulika's got that too. You need a speed buff to make your team go, oh, Lulika does that too. You need somebody to carry Taga Hale's ancient book. Guess what? She's a mage. Lulika does it all. There is always somebody that does the specific job better. That's all I got to say about Lulika. Melissa is actually quite good into this meta, especially when you combine her with her sister Abigail. These two work very, very well together. And Melissa has more immortalities than BBK has if you play her right. Melissa can put a curse on the enemy and then blow somebody else up and kill multiple units at a time. She is surprisingly good. She takes decent gear and she takes a little bit of know-how. She's not the easiest unit to play, but I think you're going to be able to get some mileage out of her as you get towards the latter half of your early game experience and into your mid game. Mort is just right beside Fenne for the most important unit in the game. If you haven't had the pleasure of fighting Mort yet, don't quit Epic 7. It's not always like that. And for those of you who have had the pleasure of fighting Mort, I think you know why you want him. Mui got buffed and it wasn't enough. They need to buff her again. Knockwall is too hard for a new to early game player to build. She takes incredibly good gear and even then is very hard to play. Pavel, his only real use is clearing Banshee content, and in PvP his uses are even few and far between. You could even say he is the green version of the Sigrid Kisei, I'm sorry, the Kisei Kowarik team, right? They both are very fast, high speed DPSs, and speed DPSs are amongst the hardest to build. Peyra is difficult to build, late game at best. Polydus, if you are early game, she is a solid unit. If you are late game, she is a unit that you're going to want on your team. She cuts CR pushing in half, and that's going to be very important when you start deciding to dip your toe into RTA. So I think she's a worthwhile pickup for sure. Ran is just boy Peyra. Okay, so Ravi is a good bruiser DPS. We got your ice bruiser DPS, your earth bruiser DPS, and your fire bruiser DPS, and they're all in about the same tier, right? They're all units who are going to help you out early game, help you reach that master's flag, and then are going to just fall away and be units you aren't going to reach for until they're buffed or get partners. Ray is just crappy Destina, so let's stick him down here, needs a buff. Rowana, I think everybody needs a Rowana on their account. With counterattacks being so prevalent, I think Rowana is going to be very, very good in both early RTA and in a lot of PvE content. There's always something from Hall of Trials to whatever the special story event that's going on, into Abyss Floors, to even some RTA fights where you're going to be happy you have a Rowana. She is the easiest unit in the game to build. You literally just stick 6 pieces of gear on her and press go. So just because of how easy she is to build, I think you'd want to pick her up. Schneel, you can put him in a team with 3 ungeared units and friendship farm Banshee. That's pretty much it. Oh, and when you do get into RTA, when you see somebody drop that Death Dealer Ray nonsense, or some maniac decides to try to throw Sharoon at you because after this side story event they think Sharoon is somehow good, Schneel absolutely obliterates all of that. You know what? Schneel is so good in early RTA that I'm just going to put him up under solid units. If you are deciding to get into RTA, you're going to push for your frame, you maybe even take Schneel up a notch, because he stops Death Dealer Ray, and Death Dealer Ray is still prominent. But if you're not worried about RTA, you're not quite there yet, you could backburner Schneel, because outside of RTA, the only place you're going to be dropping Schneel is to make Banshee a little bit easier for background battling and quick battling. Senya has got no use in the game whatsoever and needs a buff. Sez is hard to build and harder to play. The Sez would be really, really good now if it wasn't for Mort and young Senya. Mort and young Senya just make Sez absolutely unplayable. Sharoon had a chance to be good, and then Schneel came along and said, no, you don't get to be in this game anymore. So Sharoon's going down here, waiting for somebody to give her a way to play the game with Schneel in this world. Sigrid you get for free. And remember when I said Smilegate hates redheads? They don't discriminate by gender. There's going to be somebody in my comment section be like, no, Teiyu's really good. No, he's not. At a high end with a specific build in certain situations, you can do stuff with Teiyu, and you can say it about anybody in this tier. I'm not going to recommend Teiyu to a newer player. If somebody says, help, I'm new, and your response is, go get Teiyu, well, you're an asshole. Tamarin you get for free. Tenebria is basically fire Lulika. Everything that I said about Lulika, it's the same thing for Tenebria. The differences predominantly are Tenebria is a little bit more focused on control. So Lulika is a little bit more PvE oriented. Tenebria is a little more PvP oriented, but they basically cover the same thing. They're both damage dealing, book holding mages who can defense break and control the enemy a little bit. Tywin's just bad. There'll be people like, no, Tywin, no. He's not good. Vildred's a tricky one. Vildred's a very tricky one. The big reason to have Vildred is to start your journey towards the dark side of being a cleaver. Because when you get multiple Vildreds and you start imprinting your Vildred, he becomes the highest speed imprint in the game that hits every spot. He will give 12 speed to all of his teammates, and no other unit in the game does that. There's a couple that give 14, but they only give it to 2 of their teammates, not all 3. So Vildred actually dishes out a grand total of 36 speed to your team combined. But you need multiple Vildreds to make that happen. If you're ready to make that journey, Vildred is a fantastic DPS. He can help you cleave. And he's also very, very good in Asmocalis, even without the imprints. You want to farm yourself some A3, there are a few units as good as Vildred. So here's the thing about Violet, guys. Violet would be a really good unit to get you into Masters RTA, but because Mort exists, Violet is not allowed to. So I think Violet just needs a buff. Vivian you get for free. Euphine is not a good unit, needs a buff. Yuna you get for free. And Eula and Zahak. I'm going to come back to Eula. Do Zahak real quick here. In this evasion meta, if you're looking to climb into RTA, if you're looking to get, punch through some dodge units, having some accuracy on your unit really helps, and Zahak is really good for that. But we're talking about Guild War, some arena, some RTA at a lower level. You're probably going to use them less and less as you move on. As for DPS in regular PvE, he's single target, which isn't that great, but you can find some use for him. I'll leave him in the solid units category. And now we got Yulha. If you are looking to build a defense in arena, or Guild War for that matter, if you're looking to get started in RTA, Yulha's kit is insane. And I'll even move her ahead of Krau. I said earlier I felt Krau was the most important RGB knight out there for actual being a defensive knight. I think Yulha's insane. So there you go, guys. That is my jank real quick, didn't put any thought into it tier list for using your selector ticket based on I'm relatively new. I think if you're relatively new, nobody on the top row is going to give you regrets. You're going to find places for them. I don't really have them sorted too much left to right, although I'll tell you what, I'm almost kind of, I guess move her over. I'm almost kind of satisfied with the sorting. Yeah, left to right. Everything else is sloppy and out of order. Schneel is definitely not ahead of Janua or anything like that, so don't put too much stock in the order they're in. All I'm saying is that the best way to view this tier list is left to right for the top tier, and after that, start looking at the middle tier and pick units. You go, I don't have Vildred, I don't have Janua, and I don't have Wukong. Well, go look at those 3 units. Go look at their skills. Think about what teams you'd want to play those on. Talk it over with your friends. Say, hey, these are the units I got. And they'll say, oh, you're totally set up for an amazing team that would use Janua really, really good. Oh, you're in a position where you could really use Wukong well. They'll help you figure it out. Is that clear? Everybody good? All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. I hope this helps give you some perspective. If you have any questions, ask them in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Special shout out to my wolf pack for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you so much. If you would like to become a Patreon supporter, click this link right here and become a member of the wolf pack. You will be able to get ad-free videos, advanced access to videos, as well as other special perks through your membership. So check me out at patreon.com/TristanWolf, and I'll catch you in the next one.